Crossfire. On the left, James Carville and Paul Begala. On the right, Robert Novak and Tucker Carlson. In the Crossfire, sex, lies, and abstinence, teaching teens about saying no to sex. A new report says some federally funded abstinence-only programs are selling our kids a phony bill of goods. And a special guest host on the right. Crossfire's James Carville faces off today with a new adversary. Today on Crossfire. Live from the George Washington University, James Carville, and sitting in on the right, the Reverend Jerry Falwell.
Welcome to Crossfire. Now I've heard it all. A new report says federally funded programs promoting abstinence-only education are based on telling our children's lies and mistruths. While President Bush says he's no stranger to telling half-truth, he continues to throw more money at abstinence programs and ignores the fact that he's leaving children unprepared to deal with the real world. I need to catch my breath before I hash out with one of today's special guest hosts on the right, and welcome to our show, the Reverend Jerry Falwell, president of Liberty University in Lynchburg, Virginia. Welcome to the show.
Hello, James.
Reverend Falwell. And we have a lot of students from the Flames and Liberty University here today also. Right now, the best little political briefing in television, our Crossfire Political Alert. Remember when Dick Cheney said on Meet the Press that U.S. troops in Iraq would be greeted with roses, and Paul Wolfowitz told the Congress he was certain it would be greeted as liberators? Remember during the campaign, we were told about how well things were going in Iraq and how freedom was on the march. Now we find out the truth. The only thing marching in Iraq will be about 12,000 more U.S. troops over the 138,000 we've already got there. Hats off to retired Army Colonel Paul Acula, former advisor to the Iraqi Defense Ministry, who said, quote, Plan A, what the U.S. actually did, failed, and Plan B, the adaptation since the end of major combat, hasn't worked either. And I can assure you they had the foggiest idea what Plan C is. Why don't they just tell us the truth, that they've messed this thing up beyond recognition or repair?
Well, James, President Bush, because of him,
right,
3 million Afghan women voted already this year for the first time in their lives.
Right.
At the end of January, millions of Iraqi women and men will vote for the first time in their lives. And if left to finish the job, I believe that in reasonable time, that region of the world will know something about democracy it doesn't know now, thanks to George.
Why we're already there for so long, and we need more and more troops if it's going so well?
Well, it's going. I think it is going well. CNN doesn't always get it right, but it goes pretty well if you watch it on Fox.
It's going so well, we got to send more troops over. It must be really going well. Okay, go ahead.
The United Church of Christ has launched a controversial new ad campaign. It depicts a bouncer at the door of a church turning away a young black girl, a Hispanic man, a person in a wheelchair, and a same-sex couple. The message is that the Church of Christ denies entry to no one, not even those whose very lifestyle is a sin against God. NBC and CBS are rejecting the spot. I'm not sure why the networks refuse to air the ads. But one thing is clear, the United Church of Christ is making two statements. One, everyone is welcome to attend the Church of Christ, which hopefully is true in every church in America, though I doubt that is true. And certainly it is at Thomas Road Church in Lynchburg. And number two, that a same-sex couple is a bona fide minority so ordained by God and to be equated with ethnic minorities and the handicapped, which I do not believe is true. I do not believe that heterosexuals or who are promiscuous or homosexuals should be rewarded for their misbehavior, but they should be invited to, allowed into church, and preach the gospel to.
Well, so you agree with that they should have run the ad?
Well, I think they should have run the ad, because I got one I want to run tomorrow, and if they run the United Church of Christ ad, I'd get mine in.
Right, but Jesus, he would spend a lot of time with sinners, didn't he? He was kind of,
that's what church is all about. We have a home for unwed mothers. We have a hospice for people with AIDS. We work with the poor. I'm for all those things. It's just the United Church of Christ believes that gay is okay.
Okay, well, let's continue with the religion thing. Remember how the University of Notre Dame used to lecture others about how they were morally superior to other universities and that they stood for something above and beyond what those of us who did not go to Notre Dame did. Ty Willingham, the former head coach of Notre Dame, who had 2 years left on his contract, and by Notre Dame's own admission was producing higher quality human beings than ever before produced in Notre Dame football program, was summarily fired for only one reason: he didn't win enough football games. He actually won more than he lost. I'm reminded of the great line in The Godfather 2 when Michael Corleone told the fictional Nevada senator, and I quote, "We're all part of the same hypocrisy, Senator." Welcome to the hypocrisy of win at any cost college athletics, a passion which I full-heartedly embrace, and I'm also for LSU head coach Nick Saban's $3 million contract because he's 20-3 over the last 2 years. So Notre Dame, shut your mouth on any morally superior argument, because the truth of the matter is everyone associated with that university would slap their grandma to win a football game.
Well, I have a hard time arguing with you because I happen to be a fan of Ty Willingham. But there are only two kinds of coaches in America: those who just got fired or who are about to be fired. That is the vocation.
I agree completely. All I'm saying is I don't want to hear anybody from the University of Notre Dame saying that they're any better, any different than anybody else. They're the same as all of us. Win at any cost. To hell with the contract, to hell with the graduation rate, to hell with the quality of kids that you're producing there. That's the nature of big-time college athletics. I understand it, and to some extent I embrace it all odds to say Coach Saban, he's actually done a lot better with our graduation rate at LSU and has won the hell of our football game. Please stay, Coach Saban. We'll pay you anything, man.
Once again, political correctness has run amok in our public schools, and once again, God gets the short end of the stick. A high school principal in Athens, Georgia, has apologized for a poem he read over the intercom before the Thanksgiving break. Tommy Kraft said he meant only to promote thought, not religion, among his students when he read the new school prayer. The rhyme mentions that students may study witchcraft and totem poles in school, but the 10 Commandments are not allowed. Parents complained that Kraft violated the principle, the non-existent principle, of separation of church and state. So Principal Kraft had to take it back. Did I say God got the short straw? Now that I think about it, it's our children who are really losing out when they are barred from even contemplating ideas that smack of spirituality. Isn't diversity of thought the whole idea behind learning?
No, I don't. Again, I don't know that anybody can't. I don't know anybody can't teach. I don't know what does a totem pole got to do with anything. I go and teach totem poles all the way.
Massive resistance. If you want to pray out loud. They can't put everybody in.
What has a totem pole got to do with anything?
Well, I was just thinking of Wicca and thinking of.
Is a totem pole? I mean, I'm serious. It all beats me. I didn't. All right, okay. The totem pole is part of the liberal Eastern establishment.
It could
news to me.
It could be.
Are your tax dollars being spent to teach our children about sex or to mislead them with myths? Coming up on Crossfire, I'll take our guest host to school and teach him just to say no to what the government is peddling. And later, the President and First Lady at the mall in Washington for the lighting of the national Christmas tree. CNN will have live coverage of this historic
Ladies and gentlemen,
event.
Join Carville, Bagala, Carlson, and Novak in the Crossfire. For free tickets to Crossfire at the George Washington University, call 202-994-8CNN or visit our website. Now you can step into the Crossfire.
Trailers don't have anti-lock brakes, crumple zones, or airbags. That's why we designed the new Ford Super Duty with the only integrated trailer brake controller, part of our exclusive tow command system. Because what good is towing a 19,200-pound trailer if you can't control it? This is the next Ford Super Duty, built Ford tough.
We've stared down the worst that could happen. We've seen the best of ourselves. We've recovered, rebuilt, and restored. We've reaffirmed our faith in ourselves, each other, and our nation. Today we stand ready to share the rewards with the world. Here in the heart of commerce, culture, and community. Lower Manhattan. Discover your very own American success story. Build your business right here, right now, in Lower Manhattan, where the only thing greater than today's success is our vision for tomorrow.
From the railroads to highways to space, America has always made its own future. Today, our leaders can put their own stamp on history by speeding a revolution in telecommunications, transforming the way we work, play, and learn, spurring investment that will enable the private sector to innovate, grow, and create new high-paying jobs. The vision and the technology are there. Now we need our political leaders to embrace market-based competition to reach this future faster.
You've heard the whispers, you've seen the pictures, but what can you believe? Anderson Cooper, 360, CNN. All this week, the facts behind the theories and the questions still unanswered. Conspiracy theories. All this week, CNN, 7 Eastern.
A new federal report says federally funded sex education programs are telling our children that abortion leads to suicide, that AIDS is transmitted through tears, and that masturbation can result in pregnancy. Oof. Do you believe it? Our tax dollars going to raise a generation of ignorant boobs. Oh, wow. Joining us in the Crossfire, conservative commentator and Republican strategist Genevieve Wood, and Patricia Ireland, former president of the National Organization for Women.
Patricia, if we have no problem telling our children no violence, no knives, no guns in school, no alcohol, drugs, tobacco, why is it so ridiculous to tell them no sex before marriage?
I don't think it's ridiculous at all to tell them about abstinence and to encourage it. But all the scientific studies show that abstinence and information about contraception and prevention of STD is what is most effective in reducing the pregnancy rate of teenage girls and in postponing their sexual activity.
Well, for example, Planned Parenthood is in most of our schools, and they have condoms to pass out to middle school and high school kids. Isn't that sort of like passing out cookbooks at a fat farm?
Well, let me just say I don't think that's actual sex education that educates people about sex. Now, there's a novel idea. Is any more likely to make them have sex than giving them driver's education is to make them crash their cars. I mean, if they're going to learn to control their sex drives, which are very strong at that age, they've got to have complete information. And I want them to trust the people who are giving them the information. If they're told, hey, 50% of the time condoms fail, and then they find out it's actually only 3%, what are they going to think? Their teacher is lying to them. Yeah, but their teacher's lying if they're saying 50%, so why would they believe anything?
Also, if they say a condom is safe.
Well,
a condom is not safe.
It's safe 97% of the time.
You know, at Liberty University, we just tell them no sex, period, till you get married.
Right. Well, you know, one of the things that I would like to see in students is no one can preach abstinence unless they practice it themselves. But that's for another discussion here. One of the things that they say that they teach is that you can get pregnant through masturbation. I don't know how to say this, but it's something I have some familiarity with. And I've never gotten pregnant. I've never known anybody to get pregnant through masturbation.
Well, Jay, I frankly think it's a waste of time to spend time on this show trying to debate half-truths, misleading information, which is exactly what the Waxman report is. I mean, let's be clear.
But you can't get pregnant through masturbation, can you?
Well, hold on. Look, everything in that report that Waxman put out there is taken out of context. I've spoken to people who've talked to all the individuals who do those programs in the schools. They say they're lying about what some of the things they say, and much of it are mistruths. Waxman has an agenda. Come on. Waxman.
Can we agree that masturbation does not cause pregnancy? Just it's simple enough. Yes,
I'm not going to debate that thing. No, I'm not going to talk. That's not what this is about. That's not what this is about, James. What this is about is a political agenda.
Why are you going to tell kids that they can get... Why do you lie to kids?
Why is it for 30 years, the quote-unquote comprehensive sex ed movement, those who want to pass out condoms in the schools, for 30 years have gotten all the federal dollars. They've had 30 years in the classrooms having their way with our kids. What's happened from that? Sexually transmitted diseases among teenagers has skyrocketed.
Teenage pregnancies are down. Actually, it's working. I don't know how to tell you this, but it's working.
Pregnancies are down, but STDs have skyrocketed, which shows you,
Well, can you catch an STD through masturbation?
Hey, Yeah, in some cases, yes.
Would you
but
like
hold
to
on,
teach
James.
people not to masturbate?
No,
Is that what's at the
no,
agenda?
I'm
You're
trying
teaching
to-
that with creationism and all that other nutty stuff you got?
I think we ought to be giving our kids the full truth. And for 30 years, the establishment in this country has not been doing that. You've been passing out condoms saying you're going to be safe.
So we
they
should
have not.
So we should lie to them.
Yeah, you've been
We should,
lying for 30
we
years.
should tell them that condoms can't work and that they can get pregnant through masturbation and all that other goofy
well,
stuff.
Maybe you don't care about this because you're a man.
I don't care if they masturbate out there. They're going to do it anyway, whether I tell them to or not.
Maybe you don't care about this because you're a man, but the HPV virus, which is the leading cause of cervical cancer in this country, you are not protected from that by a condom. That hurts a lot of women in this country. And when you tell teenage girls that using a condom, being with a boyfriend who uses a condom is going to keep them safe, that is a lie. And you guys have to own up to
I'm
that.
all for
But
telling
Trish, let me
people
tell
the
you
truth.
why I believe we ought to teach abstinence in the schools. I believe that, first of all, what James said earlier is right. Godly parents ought to practice abstinence outside the marriage bond, ought to teach it to their children. They ought to also hear it from the pastor and the Sunday school teacher at the church. They ought to also hear it at the school from the school teacher and the counselor. They ought to also hear a little of it on television and from Hollywood, that the only way to guarantee no teen pregnancy, no pregnancy, here I'm agreeing with James, is no sex outside of marriage. And whether it's premarital or extramarital, God's plan is still the best plan. Why is it such a silly thing that George Bush wants to teach the millions of boys and girls of this country in the school, augmented at home, in the church, and in the community, that all sex outside marriage is wrong, wrong, wrong?
Well, the Bush administration... There's nothing wrong with wanting to teach abstinence in the schools. It's wrong to teach abstinence only, just as it was wrong for the Bush administration to take down accurate information from the government websites that showed, for instance, that abortion is not tied to a higher rate of breast cancer, that effective sex education programs include not only abstinence, but also
Well, let me shock you and tell you that I would not be
comprehensive-
opposed to comprehensive sex education in the public schools at the proper age level and the proper age presentation, if a value system is presented alongside that. Anatomy, sexual activity, the process of reproduction, well, that's all, to me, that's fine. I have no problem with sex education if we teach
there a
them
question
that.
there?
Yeah, the question is, I'm going to ask you in a moment if you disagree. I realize that you disagree because you once were president of OW, and that's their main thing. But I want to ask you, what is wrong? What is wrong with teaching young people the facts with also a value system alongside, saying, don't do it?
Well, I think that's fine. And as I say, I don't oppose abstinence programs, but only abstinence only. And why? Because the kids who take a virginity pledge, for instance, 88% of them end up having premarital sex. You can't put your 88% of the kids who take premarital virginities.
I know about true
I want to
weights in the
finish,
churches.
and I'm going to tell you,
we do our polls, and that is not true.
Well, you don't keep after them until they're married, and I'll tell you that 88% of them break their vow. Break their vow. Now, wait a minute for a second. I'm just telling you that, and I'm going to tell you also that the
Congregation of Thomas Road Church,
Who is
and I've been
abstinent for
chancellor
49 years?
34 years at Liberty University.
You believe...
At every
Let me ask you, in all honesty, do you really believe that your student body is abstinent out there?
No, but I'll tell you what, they're far more absent than they would be if I didn't teach it properly, and our teachers and our
And the fact is, look, if you guys were willing, if you're so sure that your side is right on this, why don't you want to have a level playing field? The fact is, non-abstinence teaching programs, those that pass out condoms,
Genevieve, you don't lie to kids. You don't get kids by lying to them. Of course you lie when you tell them that they can get pregnant by masturbation, when you tell them that half the homosexual males under 18 are HIV positive. You're lying when you tell them that condoms fail 50% of the time.
James, you're not looking at these studies.
You know what? I'll tell any young person, you cannot get pregnant if you don't have intercourse. I promise you that.
Look, if you really really care, why don't you ask for a real government study on this?
Because we are for the truth. Y'all want to lie to people like y'all want to lie to them about Iraq? Y'all want to lie to them about sex? And you're not going to get young people you're not going to get young people to believe them by telling them they'll get pregnant.
James, having been married 47 years to the same woman, and having never touched another woman except my wife Basil, and my wife having never touched another man in 47 years, I can tell you that is the best deal, and that's the deal we ought to be teaching our kids.
That's wonderful, and I grew up, you know, in a house with 8 brothers and sisters, but you know what? I got married when I was 49. I hate to say this, but I'm going to teach people the facts.
But James,
and you're not going to get people to do something by lying to them, which I want what Bush and them wanted to do. If Athens so good, why didn't he practice?
James, why don't you pay for the facts? Why don't you get a real government study to look at our program?
The government study was changed. They changed the terms.
Henry Waxman is
They
liberal.
changed the terms of measurement. They said we don't need to look at behavior. Just look at attendance.
Henry Waxman tell me you can't get pregnant through masturbation. I know that.
James, that's not the issue. You're riding that one to death. If somebody said that, they're idiots.
Well, of course
and we'll just discount that immediately.
All right, I'm sorry, guys. I'm getting Up next in Rapid Fire, we'll ask why conservatives never seem to practice what they preach. And after the break, Wolf Blitzer reports on a possible break in a decades-old serial murder case. You're looking at a live picture of the mall here in Washington. We're awaiting the president's arrival for the lighting of the national Christmas tree. We'll take you there live when it happens.
You decorated the tree. We should take a picture. Everybody get around the tree, okay? Say cheese.
Come on, take the hint. Staples has the digital cameras everybody wants this year, and we make it easy with top brands, trained associates, and everything you need to bring your pictures to life.
Oh, get one with me and the dog. Just push here.
Staples, that was easy.
CNN Sunday. Terrorists armed with a nuclear weapon. How real is the threat? CNN presents Nuclear Terror. Sundays, 8 Eastern.
Hi, I'm Sonny Witherspoon with Southern Home Inspections. Remember, it's that time of year to be closing these foundation vents. And be sure and tune in to Channel 22 on Charter Main Street to Ask the Professional.
For free helpful advice from the pros, log on to chartermainstreet.com and click on the Ask the Professional link.
A message from the law offices of James Sokolov on mesothelioma. Mesothelioma is a rare malignant type of cancer in the lungs, usually associated with exposure to asbestos. If you or a loved one have been diagnosed with mesothelioma, call the law offices of James Sokolov at 1-800-821-5491. That's 1-800-821-5491.
This holiday season, join in lighting the windows of hope for the Boys and Girls Club of Jackson at the West Tennessee Healthcare Building on the 45 Bypass. Your donations during this holiday season will help ensure that the programs of the Boys and Girls Club of Jackson continue to meet the needs of our youth. For a donation of $25 or more to the Boys and Girls Club of Jackson, a window of hope will be lit in recognition of your contribution. Contributions may be sent to the address on your screen. For more information or corporate donations, please call 731-423-0627.
Will they hook up, break up, fall in love? Will he save a tissue? Will she save the world? Will you look over your shoulder or sleep with the light on? Will your palms get sweaty? Will your heart begin to race? Will he look into your eyes and say,
just don't play any Grateful Dead or you're all going in.
what's going to happen? The Movie Channel. The stuff movies are made of.
Hooked on movies? Get Showtime plus the Movie Channel and the movie tier on Charter Digital.
Tough questions, asked and answered. Call us on now. CNN Tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern.
I'm Wolf Blitzer in Washington. Coming up at the top of the hour, new violence across Iraq, casting fresh doubt on the security of scheduled January elections. President Bush weighing in. So do four U.S. senators who've gotten a first-hand look. Also, a new treatment for low sex drive in women. Why some are urging caution over the patch. and a possible break in a serial killer case dating back 30 years. All those stories, plus live coverage of the president lighting the national Christmas tree, only minutes away on Wolf Blitzer Reports. Now back to Crossfire.
It's time for Rapid Fire. We ask questions faster than right-wingers can replace sex education with scare tactics. Our guests today are Genevieve Wood, Republican strategist, conservative commentator, and former National Organization Women President Patricia Ireland. We're both very grateful that y'all would be here, very knowledgeable guests, and we also want to, again, welcome Reverend Falwell to set a Crossfire.
And Patricia,
do you have at it?
Quick question.
Sir.
Would you object to a public school teacher teaching comprehensive sex ed and telling them reserve sex for marriage?
I would not object at all. What I object to is, for example, government studies that take away any measurement of whether the sex education program reduces pregnancy, reduces sexual activity, which is what happened under the Bush administration.
One of the things that were taught was that success by men is defined by what they accomplish in life at work, and success for women is defined by success in relationships. Isn't that a bunch of bunk to be teaching females this age?
I think you have to look at the full evidence and know what's being taught and what's not being taught. And James, the reason the Democrats lost this last election, here's a place to take a note, is because quote-unquote values voters. More and more parents out there care about what their children are being taught in schools.
If I got to lie to kids to win an election, I ain't gonna do it.
You're not. No.
I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do what y'all do. Go out there and lie and tell people something that's not true. And you know what? It's gonna catch up.
Well, you know what? If you want to keep.
You want to tell young girls that they're defined by success in relationship when boys are defined by something else?
I'll go with you. Hey, look,
Patricia?
if you want to keep running from the truth, you're going to keep losing elections. Parents are willing to teach abstinence education, even when the federal government won't fund it.
And 8 grandchildren. My wife and I, 47 years of marriage, teach them, don't do it till you get married. The Sunday school teacher teaches them that, and they go to a Christian school where they hear that and hear it every day. Don't you think kids can obey instruction today like in yesteryear?
I think that kids have incredible sex drives. Did that ring the bell? And that means that's the end of it?
I'm sorry, but I'm getting here. We gotta go. Thank y'all so much for coming on the show. Since it's a season for giving, I'll tell you one thing the Reverend Falwell and I can agree on. That's next on Crossfire.
Close